All right, so get this. I got this deep dive request, and this is pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Someone sent in a whole analysis of a jazz improvisation they wrote.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the nuts and bolts of
Let's get into it.
this improvisation they sent in.
Let's do it.
First up, the bass line.
Okay.
They're messing around with an A and B vamp, which is cool, but then they throw in this twist.
Okay.
They're like avoiding the F note
Interesting.
in A minor.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole back and forth between the major and minor thirds.
Right.
In the solo itself, the C sharp and the C.
Yeah.
The source calls it a bluesy vibe.
Yeah. They also talk about playing with perfect fifths and flat fifths.
Yes.
Which, again, they say contributes to that bluesy feel.
Okay, so then things take a turn
They do.
into modern jazz territory
Okay.
with the G sus2 and D sus2 chords,
Yes.
which the source says adds a suspended feel.
That's right. Jazz musicians in the mid-20th century really embraced this sound.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, it definitely adds that modern edge.
Okay, then buckle up.
All right.
Because this next part is wild.
Let's do it.
The source mentions the whole tone scale
Okay.
to create an outside sound.
Right.
They even go so far as to call it alien.
I love it.
I know scales can get pretty technical.
They can.
But for us earthlings out here, can you help us understand
I'll try it.
what makes this scale so unique?
Yeah, so the whole tone scale is like stepping into a musical hall of mirrors.
Okay.
It's symmetrical
Uh-huh.
with only 6 notes,
Okay.
all a whole step apart.
Interesting.
And no matter where you start,
Yeah.
it sounds the same.
Hmm.
It creates this feeling of ambiguity,
Okay.
like you've lost your bearings a little bit.
I see.
Think of like the eerie music in a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
When something otherworldly appears.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's the whole tone scale.
So it's like taking us to another musical dimension.
Exactly.
But the crazy thing is, it still fits
It does.
within this improvisation.
Right.
How do they pull that off?
So it's all about placement.
Okay.
They're strategically placing those otherworldly whole tone notes
Yeah.
and resolving them in a way that makes sense harmonically.
Okay.
So they're creating a controlled sense of tension and release,
I like it.
like a jolt of surprise,
Uh-huh.
but then it leads you back to familiar ground.
Okay, and the source also talks about circle of fourths movement with these mysterious diminished sounds.
Yes.
What's going on there?
By moving down and forth and emphasizing those flat fifths, they're highlighting that instability, creating this feeling of unease
Interesting.
and constant motion.
This is why I love jazz.
Me too.
It's like an emotional roller coaster.
It is.
Okay, to add another layer of complexity here. The source talks about using simple triads, like D major and E major arpeggios, to create what they call wider intervallic shapes.
Right.
What's the impact of that technique?
Yeah. So arpeggios, those broken chords, they add a sense of flowing melody.
Okay.
Think of it like adding these brush strokes of vibrant color to a canvas that was initially dominated by a single hue.
Gotcha.
The D major and E major arpeggios create this bright contrast.
So it's like adding these bursts of light to the musical landscape.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, and finally, let's talk about those chromatic notes.
Okay.
And their careful resolution.
Yeah.
The source seems to think that this is a sign of a true improvisational master.
It is.
Why is that?
So chromatic notes, those notes that live outside the main key, they can add spice and intrigue to an improvisation. But if they're not handled carefully, they can sound like a clunky wrong turn in the musical journey.
Gotcha.
Resolving them gracefully shows a deep understanding of how harmony works. You know how to create a cohesive story that makes sense even when it's taking you on these unexpected detours.
It's amazing how much thought goes into
I know, it's incredible.
every note of a jazz improvisation.
Every single note.